Thank you for the kind invitation to be with you this evening. I'm sorry I couldn't make it during the day. There was some miscommunication, but I'm glad that I'm here with you this evening. I would also like to congratulate the Fiji Institute of Chartered Accountants, FICA, and the Asia Pacific Applied Economics Association, APAEA, on successfully hosting what I gather as Fiji's first ever international conference on climate accounting. I was just sharing with my people at my table here that I was in Korea, the invitation of the Korean government about 2 months ago. And I was amazed at the technology that has now developed, they've created to meet the challenges of climate change. And when I saw these, I said, okay, now we're also looking into accounting for climate change. And this is, it's very encouraging because this is a challenge that challenges mankind, and we are adapting to it, in this manner. And it's very, very encouraging. Indeed, in November, I will be attending a conference in Dubai on aviation, on how to, specifically on aviation fuel, because the commitment is there to be by 2050 to be entirely green in terms of aviation fuel. So it's a march towards saving our planet, really, in many ways. This definitely puts these STEAM institutions at the forefront of an agenda that is very near and dear to Fiji and the Pacific. Ladies and gentlemen, full disclaimer, I'm not from an accounting background, but I do recognize the importance of climate accounting as a demand for environmentally responsible and ethical business practices is growing world over. As you know, Fiji has and continues to make strong commitments in our pursuit to mitigating the impacts of climate change. We have ambitious goals to the extent where we have a Climate Change Act that legally binds Fiji to net zero carbon emission by 2050. So how do you achieve this, and how to measure how we are progressing? Ladies and gentlemen, it's important that businesses understand their own emissions, their plans, and track progress. To measure and report this is a complex undertaking, so collaboration is of course key. By doing so, businesses can identify opportunities to reduce their carbon footprint and make informed decisions about the environmental impact. Colleagues and friends, you're professionals in your own field. So I take this opportunity to acknowledge our colleagues from the Reserve Bank of Fiji, Consumer Council of Fiji, Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission, the Treasury Loan and Scholarship Service, and the Fiji Higher Education Commission. I understand from Professor Narayan that there's work happening with the Office of the Prime Minister to have a similar panel discussion at COP28. That is very welcome, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, you had a full day of deliberations on key issues in climate accounting, looking at areas like international standards, partnership, legal framework, and measuring and reporting. I'm especially glad to see that the focus of climate change moves to more specific policy issues that directly impact our most vulnerable, small and medium enterprises and consumer welfare. I hope the discussions have allowed you to map out implications and possible work plan going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, now I look after tourism and aviation. While they are highly vulnerable to climate change, they also contribute to the emission of greenhouse gases, CHG. This is especially true for air transport. But in Fiji, there is growing consensus on how the future of tourism will depend on the sector's ability to move to a low carbon pathway and cut emissions. At COP26, the Glasgow Declaration was launched, proposing a coordinated plan for tourism to support the global commitment to halve emissions by 2030 and achieve net zero by 2050. It requires signatories to make tangible commitments around planning, measuring, and reporting. So I am particularly interested in climate accounting because of its role in fostering a sustainable and resilient tourism industry, which ultimately impacts every other sector of the economy. For business survival, job prospects, and consumer welfare, we need to be able to measure the effects of climate change and have proper established reporting standards. And these standards need to be implementable and meaningful to the extent where national accounts can measure the success of a sector and the economy beyond revenue like we often do. I know the conference had a panel of discussion on this topic. I look forward to seeing the outcome of those discussions and how they can be implemented. It is the implementation aspect that is often where the challenge lies. Policy-oriented solutions should be co-designed amongst partners, where the partners are academia, private sector, civil society, or development partners. We often miss the aspect of working together from the beginning. Some questions I have on the subject of climate accounting are: 1, having identified and measured the effects of climate change, how do we address this? What sort of business models will work? Do we have the right insurance products to protect businesses? What sort of government support is critical? What is the role of development partners and the private sector in the loss and damage? These are important policy considerations that may not have a simple solution or answer. However, I'm sure the conference, with the caliber of speakers you had, touched on some of these issues. Colleagues and friends, I will not take much of your time this evening and would rather hear from you. I would like to conclude by commending the work that is being done and the partnerships being forged. I also look forward to receiving the outcomes report so we can look at opportunities. With those words, thank you for having me, and let's enjoy the evening, and all the best.